Set up the temporary powder coating booth and powder coated my 2 water pumps. I'm hoping to send them off today. Fresh out of the oven. Don't they smell good? So I had to put 2 coats on to get the powder down into some of the crevices, and actually it worked pretty well. The first coat didn't get down in there, but turned the voltage way up and had these facing this orientation, so gravity helped, and it did get in there quite well. A little bit of joy. I thought these wheels would be tough to get off. Been on there for 35 years or more, but they actually came off easier than the front wheels, except the knockoffs. I tried to hit it with a hammer and a block of wood. That didn't do it. So then I tried a sledgehammer and a block of wood, and that just beat up the block of wood. So I finally had to hit the sledgehammer right on the ear, and then it came off. But not too marked up. So I'm thinking I'm gonna tear this apart, since it's about the only part of the car I don't have in pieces right now. Okay, the drum is off. It came off easily. Again, these screws back here for the brake line and the bleeder valve just turned right out, which is unbelievable after all this time, at least for a car that would have been in the salt in this area. This spring at the bottom is just barely engaged in that hole. Looks like it's not going to take much to get that one out. Not sure if that's how you're supposed to do it, but it wasn't very hard to pop this shoe up over the top there to take the slack off, almost really off of both springs. Sandblasted a few parts. It's so humid though. The ones I did the other day really starting to rust pretty bad. So I have to figure out something. I tried on this one, or a couple of them, to wrap them in plastic wrap and see if that cuts down on the rusting till I can get them painted. I'd like to paint them, but I got such a mess now with every part of the car torn apart, waiting on engine parts from the machine shops, and then I tore into the brakes and suspension, and pieces of the car torn apart everywhere here. No matter how much room you have, it's not enough. I took this axle out, and unfortunately one of the studs was loose and obviously stripped there. The other ones seem okay, so I was pretty bummed about that until I started the other side, and now I don't feel bad about this side at all. On this side, there's one missing, so that's probably stripped. And then up on here, there's a bolt and some washers that's not even tight. And then I think, yeah, on the bottom, there's a bolt stuffed in and more washers. And this stud here looks like it's out too far, so it's probably pulled out. I think this trailing arm's really going to be a mess. It's even worse than I thought. So this nut, I thought the stud was being pulled out, but they actually drilled all the way through, and there's a bolt stuck in the back. I probably can't get a picture of that, but the head doesn't even go flush because of the angle on the casting. And this nut is stripped, so I can turn it all I want and it doesn't come off. So I'm going to have to try to get a little cutoff wheel in there and cut this off and then drive the bolt back out. So here are the fasteners. There were 2, was it 3? Oh yeah. So there were 2 nuts, 1 stud missing, and then there were 3 bolts. This one was the one I thought was a stud at first, but it had been ground off and rammed in from behind on the trailing arm. And then one of these, I can't remember which one, wasn't even tight. The washers were just flopping around, so it wasn't holding much. And this one Looks like it's got a spacer that's, I can't tell if maybe it's the steering stop. It looks a little bit off center, or it's the oil pan spacer maybe. So this will be a mess to fix. Of course, I put the jack right in the way of taking the trailing arm out, so I had to rebite here. Okay, I got the nuts off for the trailing arms, and I have to keep track of how many shims are in here, I guess. And so if I look on the outboard side, on the driver's side, it looks like 2 shims there. And on the inboard, still on the driver's side, it looks like 3 shims in there. And now moving to the passenger side, inboard. Let's see. This is not easy to get in here. I don't know, it looks like 3, but it could be that those are groups of 2 stuck together. It's really hard to tell. And passenger side outboard. See, these are thinner, making me think the other side has got more shims. Anyway, there's 5 outboard passenger side. Have the control arms out. I was hoping to take them both out with the bracket attached, but the outboard side hits into the fender in here, so I had to take the cross bolt out in that bushing and then pry it out. Same problem on both sides. So I have to remember to put it back together this way. That one inboard bracket on with bolts, and the outboard bracket up on the frame. And now taking the lever shocks out.